Il fait indéniablement partie des jeux que j'attends le plus, et il fait même globalement partie des jeux sur lesquels j'ai le plus de curiosité concernant le line-up Xbox des jeux à venir. On va parler de Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Indiana Jones et le Cercle Ancien. Bien le bonjour la team JVM, c'est Momo, j'espère que vous allez bien, mais également que vous avez la forme. Vous savez peut-être pas, mais Xbox balance de temps à autre, au fur et à mesure du temps sur sa chaîne YouTube, quelques petits deep dives, des podcasts, des discussions entre des gens d'Xbox, mais également des développeurs par rapport à des jeux qui ont été montrés. On a eu ça du côté d'Avov, du côté de Metal Gear Solid, et là, ça vient de tomber il y a de cela quelques instants, du côté d'Indiana Jones, on a une vidéo de près de 25 minutes qui a été partagée avec des informations, on l'espère, qui seront totalement inédites. Bref, mettez-vous confortablement, installez-vous, on se met vraiment dans la configuration des conférences, et maintenant que je suis revenu, c'est le temps plus simple, de ce côté-là pour être réactif. Bref, regardons un peu ce que MachineGames a à nous raconter concernant Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, sous-titré en français, bien évidemment, c'est important, faut le dire.
Welcome back to the official Xbox podcast, the only podcast coming to you from inside Xbox. And all this week, we've been diving deep into the games you've seen at the Xbox Game Showcase. And if you missed one from earlier in the week, don't worry. Be sure to check them out at youtube.com/Xbox, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. And this week, we are wrapping up in a massive way. Joining us today are Jörg Gustafsson and John Jennings, joining us remotely from MachineGames in Sweden, beautiful Sweden, to talk to us about that new trailer for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. Nice to be here.
It's good, thank you.
I mean, I imagine you all are feeling great coming off the showcase. Everyone's excited to see more about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So we're going to get into all of that, the inspiration for the game, the plot, the gameplay, all of it in just a little bit. But we're going to start off by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do on the team. John, let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is John Jennings. I'm production director.
Je vais juste augmenter les sous-titres en termes de taille.
My name is Jörg Gustafsson. I'm the game director at MachineGames. So nice to meet you all.
Yeah, well, we're so excited to have you all here again to talk about the game. I want to start, we're going to get into everything in just a second, but let's start with talking about the new trailer for the game that premiered at the showcase. One, tell us a little bit about what went into it and how you're feeling post-showcase.
I feel, obviously it's exciting times. I feel good about it. And, it's hard to focus on anything else in the game now when we're getting closer to the final phase of development. So these beats, when we get to share our work with the world, is very exciting for us. And the best part for me is to see the engagement from the team, sharing reactions, comments, and articles, all of these things. It just makes us all more motivated just to deliver a great game, which we will.
Whenever the trailers come out, it's one of the most exciting things for me is just seeing the energy that hits the team, the enthusiasm. We put so much love and energy into the things we show. And, getting to actually share it with the world is always great. You just get a big buzz and lift in the team's energy after that, which is great.
Like you said, I imagine like working on a game for years and finally getting that feedback from the fans and the excitement, all the passion that you poured into it. I actually want to dive into passion real quick because on your website, on MachineGames' website, it says that you only make games that you're passionate about, which is something that as a player, you want your creators to feel. And so what was it about Indiana Jones where you were like, let's go after it. This makes us passionate. Like we are excited to like tackle such an iconic franchise.
I think it goes for pretty much everything we do. Obviously, it's very important for us to have or to work with games that we feel very passionate about. And, because it's this type of industry we're in when it's where we focus so much on the creative aspects of things. So we really want to make sure that whatever we do, it's something that the team can really feel strong about and make sure that the team feel very motivated in building. So I think all of that is super important to us to make sure that we have the right projects lined up for the future. And Indiana Jones is a fantastic brand and such a classic adventure game. So it's just an honor to be able to work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to work on an Indiana Jones game?
Right.
Ça c'est bien vrai. J'aurais adoré bosser sur un truc Indiana Jones.
It has this like rich history and pop culture and everything. And so, let's just jump into it. Let's talk about the trailer. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of the overall storyline in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Like what's the central conflict for or quest that players will embark on?
Okay.
So the story kicks off when an ancient relic is stolen from the college where Indiana Jones works. He's determined to track down the thief, and Indy stumbles into this ancient conspiracy involving the theory of the Great Circle, as we call it. A Great Circle is a strange alignment of ancient sites around the globe, and a set of mysterious artifacts connected to it. But Indy isn't the only one in search for answers. The enemy are scoring the world for these artifacts, believing that they hold some kind of power. And to stop them, there's only one thing he can do, and that is to find the artifacts first. And that's a very high level setup of the story for the game.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. Now, there's so many different ways, as you mentioned, that you could go with Indiana Jones. What was it about the Great Circle narrative that drew you to wanting to explore that kind of theme a little bit more?
It actually started with an idea from Todd Howard. He had been thinking for...
On sait que c'était Todd Howard qui avait insufflé cette idée-là, c'est lui qui voulait vraiment créer un jeu Indiana Jones et tout.
Opportunity to work on Indiana Jones game, it felt like the perfect match. And like I said, it's this mysterious anchored in history, and it also spans the world, which is a great thing. It's just this perfect starting point for a globe-trotting narrative, where in a way the course was already in a way set for us. And exploring the meaning of the Great Circle and how we could use it for an intriguing story has been really fun as well. It's especially the process of figuring out why the bad guys.
Les artworks et une ambiance de zinzin, j'aime trop. Ça me rappelle trop les films.
We always put a lot of effort into just the goal of tying the story to our hero's own personal journey.
Even the decision to do first person, right, for example, and really basing the player as they are Indiana Jones. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, but exactly what you said, those kind of narrative decisions and making sure the player feels like Indiana Jones is pivotal to that, and making it an authentic experience. Can you talk a little bit more about the prep? Obviously, this is a IP that has been around for decades at this point. So you obviously want to make sure you get it right. Can you talk a little bit about the prep and research that went into making sure that you were bringing an authentic experience?
In this case, of course, we had a lot of materials to go through, and we spent countless of hours just rewatching the films, especially the two movies, I think, that are closest to the game, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. And looking at the movies, both from a broad stroke perspective to get into the mood and why, but also to some extent, scrutinizing them for details and the small hooks that are key to the identity of everything that is Indiana Jones. And in addition, then we have one of the best resources through our partnership with Lucasfilm Games, and working together with them on this project has been invaluable. Just this cave of knowledge about the character, which has been fantastic. And Lucasfilm has been excited about the project from day one and have been incredibly supportive and helpful in bringing the story and the character of Indiana Jones to life through not just our story, but also through gameplay.
Yeah, it's been great having access to writers, art directors from Lucasfilm, people who've worked with the Indiana Jones property for decades, having their input. I mean, some of these people know everything that could be has ever been written about Indy, and having them to bounce ideas off and get some of their own input has been hugely invaluable. I mean, our own writers are huge indie fans as well, and just been scouring all of the the countless wikis that are out there written about everything, all of the comics, additional books, and so forth.
C'est vrai qu'on a tendance à l'oublier, mais Indiana Jones, c'est une franchise transmédia dans le sens où c'est pas que des films en fait. Il y a aussi d'autres jeux vidéo, etc.
Some of the Lucasfilm archives as well, which has been indie fans has been
c'est un truc de fou.
An absolute dream come true to get access to some of these things that perhaps not so many people have seen, but our artists have been wanting to make sure everything is authentic as possible. We bought replicas of Indy's famous fedora made by the original hat makers who made the original prop from the first film, proper recreations of his iconic jacket and so forth, just to make sure everything is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't envy you all. One, the audacity and the creative audacity to go after such a franchise, but then the pressure of knowing we can't get anything wrong. If someone's playing the game, who's seen every movie, you mentioned going on the wikis, who knows everything about the game, the pressure of that must be overwhelming, but I think you all are rising to the occasion perfectly. And I'm thinking about the fact that you all at MachineGames have built amazing worlds, right? Like in your own right. But for this one, as we've been talking about, you're working with Lucasfilm Games. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the differences are there from a storytelling perspective and a script writing perspective? Like obviously you're working alongside them, but does it help as a game developer to have that like source of truth versus like going super creative with the games that you've made previously?
Yeah, it absolutely does, and it's a little bit different this game for us in many ways. It's usually we're used to have this heavy weapons, gun blazing.
Parce que je précise pour ceux qui ont oublié, c'est eux qui font Wolfenstein, hein. Enfin qui ont fait Wolfenstein, donc c'est pas le même style de jeu a priori, hein, évidemment.
And it's also a game that is a little bit more directed towards a wider audience. Bit of a new thing for us.
Yeah, I imagine.
And overall, when sketching out the foundation of what our gameplay was going to focus on, we pretty much always do this, but in this case, we focused a little bit more on it. We prioritized that we had to stay true to Indy's personality and who he is above all. He is a normal human being. He's not this caped superhero, or he's not a superhero hero, as we like to say. He is flawed. He makes mistakes. He stumbles. There is weight to his movement, and we have this gritty, pulpy edge to the action. But at the same time, he's also rather athletic. He's an excellent fighter, and he also have an enormous amount of luck as well. And at the same time, he's the best archaeologist in the world. So focusing on all of these things, in a way, it makes the gameplay feel in line with this matinee action, this classic matinee action adventures that the movies were celebrating, something I think Indy himself also personifies in a way.
100%. And I think if we look back, you mentioned it's your first team game, and, Wolfenstein, obviously, you mentioned a little bit guns blazing, a little bit of a different feel. I imagine having a little bit, as you've been saying, a little bit more of a narrower focus allows you to really dive in a little bit deeper into the story, really focus on almost building a game a little bit, I don't want to say more creatively, but just differently, such that, the players are still having a great experience. I want to talk a little bit about the antagonists that we've seen, a little bit at the developer direct, and a little bit more in this trailer. Tell us a little bit about the foes and the main baddie in this game.
C'est un nazi, hein.
We saw quite a lot of Emmerich Voss in the developer direct trailer. We see a little bit of him in this one, but the character we focus more on perhaps is Victor Gantz. He's a colonel in the Wehrmacht to overseeing the dig that's going on at the pyramids of Giza, where Voss is looking for the relics. Gantz is a bit different to Voss. He's not part of the Special Antiquities Division. He's quite the opposite. He actually dislikes Voss's strange obsession with ancient relics. They're almost uneasy allies in some ways. So Voss is kind of a sharp-eyed, very intelligent, manipulative character. Gantz, on the other hand, he's a bit more of a strong man.
Ce qui est le cas dans d'autres films Indiana Jones, enfin, dans certains d'entre eux. On a déjà vu le grand méchant principal et une espèce de brute aussi un peu. Même si c'est pas si fréquent que ça.
Put that aside because it's needed for the mission. He's drawing the Kool-Aid, and this trait is something which Voss takes advantage of a little bit throughout the game. He uses it to manipulate Gantz a little bit to do what he wants, turning him into the perfect sort of ultra henchman to pit against his main rival of Indy. There's a lot of fun moments between Gantz and Voss in the game. They're fun characters, quite different. Two good villains to play off against Indy.
All right, so Indiana Jones movies have always been about globe-trotting adventures going across the world. We saw battleships up in the Himalayas and some moments of other areas in the trailer. Are you able to tell us a little bit about the locations that we'll visit in the Great Circle?
Yeah, as you said, it really is a globe-trotting adventure for Indy. It's an important part. All the movies have that, right? They're not set in sort of one location. So as you saw in the trailer, we do spend some time in the Himalayas. We'll get to see some familiar locations? Or...
Et là, je m'y pose juste une seconde. Je veux absolument des références à ce qui s'est passé dans Les Aventuriers de l'Arche perdue quand ils sont au Caire. Vous savez, quand ils recherchaient l'Arche d'Alliance, c'était en Égypte. Je veux une référence à ça. Voilà, c'est tout.
Or indie, as you'd have seen in some of the earlier trailers, and also a little bit in this one, we get to walk around the corridors of Marshall College, which is like a dream come true for indie fans. We spend time at the Vatican, which is a cool new location.
Alors, je crois que le Vatican était apparu dans un autre jeu Indiana Jones avant.
Hasn't really come across in the indie lore before. We spent
Dans un
time
livre.
over in the Egypt and the pyramids, which is a must-have for an Indiana Jones game, right? We also get down into the jungles in Thailand, particularly in Sukhothai, and there's a couple of other locations as well. That's you'll have to play the game to find out. Don't want to spoil everything today.
Well,
right?
that's what I'm saying. I'm going to be asking a ton of questions, just try and pull as much information out of you all as possible. So forgive me, but the fans are going to want to know. The players are going to want to know for sure. But to your point on the different locations, I feel like from a game creator perspective, like that just allows you to like, try new gameplay mechanics in this place versus the next place. The locations I feel like are so important to like diversifying the experience for the player. So I'm excited to hear about that. I want to take a little bit of a detour back to the characters. We talked a little bit about the villains a little bit earlier. And in the spirit of me trying to pull as much information out of you as possible, can you tell us a little bit about the characters that are in this trailer that we may have seen in Indiana Jones before, potentially any others in the game that we may have seen before?
I mean, most of the characters we meet in the game are new faces. I think.
Sauf Marcus Brody qui est au début.
We have one familiar face there in the trailer as well that you probably recognized, and also because we start our story in Marshall College, it made sense to have Marcus Brody there to sort of ground it in the familiarity of Indy's home base. We also have a couple of other classic characters doing some smaller cameos, but you'll have to wait and see for yourself regarding those.
Okay. I'm going to get used to that answer, I feel like, throughout this interview. But honestly, we don't want to spoil anything for anybody. We want to make sure everyone can experience it. And of course, like any game, having new characters is great, and existing characters is great for folks who have seen movies, but also for folks jumping in. They can feel like they're part of discovering new parts of the Indiana Jones universe as well. Now, let's talk about gameplay. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but this game is largely in first person, though there are some parts where you're pulled out into third person view. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the gameplay experiences that players are going to take part of when they play Indiana Jones in the Great Circle? Yeah,
sure. And I think I can go back to what we talked a little bit about previously when it comes to Indiana Jones not being this, guns blazing action hero. It's something that we have been focused on a lot when it comes to gameplay. He solves problems with his mind first and really relies on smarts and not this excessive combat that we have seen or done before with the Wolfenstein games. So, when you are playing the game, choosing the more authentic, stealthy indie route or just, some classic old fist fighting will be a benefit to the player and more times than not also make for a very fun and challenging experience. But in my mind, and what we're asking the player to do in our game is really to step into the shoes of the world's most famous archaeologist. And we strongly believe that the first-person perspective is what makes this experience the most immersive. It allows the player to focus on the adventure, to feel like they are interacting with the world around them. And also, since first-person games are very much part of our pedigree here at MachineGames, it felt like a natural approach for our take on indie and a feature that will set it apart from many other action-adventure games out there. And I think, it is something that brings something really unique to this game. And we also, like you mentioned as well, Malik, we do bring in this mix of first and third-person gameplay just to... we wanted to have the mix of both, so players could literally have in this point of view with first-person alignment to really be transported into the story. But at the same time, we felt doing third-person was also important so that the player can see the iconic character. And just because of that, then we are being, you know, we are using that perspective as well throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the mix is so important, exactly to what you said. Like, you want players to feel like they're in Indiana Jones's shoes, but there's some iconic parts of any game where you kind of want to see the actual character that you're controlling. So I love that you all are doing that. Part of the reason the game looks so great was because visually it's a stunning game and you're just totally immersed. And so kudos to you all for just the design and also the perspective of the game. I do want to go to Indiana Jones himself. Now, obviously, when we saw at the developer direct, people heard Indiana Jones. It does sound like him. It does look like him, but it's not him.
If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle.
It is actually one Troy Baker. And I think it was funny watching reactions to the developer direct because it was very clear that people were like, that voice sounds familiar. It sounds like Harrison Ford, but it's not. And I think quickly people found out it was Troy Baker, which is exciting. What was it like working with someone who has literally, I almost feel like, become like an icon in voice acting and acting in games? What was it like working with him?
Yeah, it's been great working with Troy. We spent a lot of time with him over the last few years, and it was maybe an unexpected choice at first. But from the moment we watched his audition tape, we were just totally sold. He's just a great actor. He's put so much effort into the role as well. You can tell he's just this huge fan of Indiana Jones. You know, he knows so much about the films and the canon. We've just been in a VO session recently with him, and he was improvising lines. You know, wouldn't Indy say it a bit more like this, or commenting on lines that we've written that we thought were, you know, subtle Easter eggs just for the die-hard Indy fans, and he'll pick up on it straight away. Oh yeah, that's the thing from blah blah blah. You know, he just knows it. It's not faking it, and it's also not just the dialogue as well. He's, you know, it's not just a voiceover actor. He's the full thing. We do full performance capture. The body, the face, and the voice all recorded at the same time, and he's got the physical acting nailed down as well. He does a really good job of capturing the character of Indy, specifically as well. I mean, his character in the first few movies, the earlier ones, which is where our game is set, of course. He just does it perfectly. It's been so much fun working with Troy. Really good actor.
Yeah, we really found the perfect person with Troy Baker. He just captured the heart of the character so good. So we're super happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the point that you mentioned on it being a full performance capture, because I think in some of the games that we've seen, and of course he's used to that from games like Last of Us and all of these other
surtout
games.
Qu'en plus, Troy Baker, il a fait plein de trucs, mais dernièrement, il était très estampillé PlayStation. Il a joué dans Last of Us, il a joué dans Death Stranding, entre autres. C'est vrai que là, c'est assez marrant de le voir dans une prod Xbox à gros budget, quoi.
Having to audition for it, but it sounds like you all went with the perfect player or perfect voice actor here, and so really excited to hear about that. Another aspect of the iconic Indiana Jones franchise is, of course, the music. It's super important. Who did you all work with here?
Yeah, the music was composed by Gordy Harp. He's composed the score for, I don't know, so many different Lucasfilm video games now, so he's just perfect for Indiana Jones, really. We were extremely happy when he agreed to compose our soundtrack. You know, he's really caught the vibe of the classic John Williams scores, and fantastic composer.
Par contre, ce que je trouve particulier, c'est que les gens qui développent des jeux Star Wars, Lucasfilm, ne peuvent pas utiliser le thème de Star Wars, sauf les Battlefront chez EA. Par contre, Indiana Jones, tu peux utiliser le thème principal. Du coup, c'est une petite subtilité que je trouve assez marrante. Et puis celui-là, ce plan-là, oh là là.
Older scene from the original Indiana Jones movie. Are we going to get to play that out a little bit?
Well, that's unfortunately one of those things where I just have to say you have to wait and see.
Fair.
Again.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's awesome. You know, again, it leaves a little bit of mystery out there for players who are going to want to experience some things for the first time. Now, the question that I know a lot of players are wondering, I can already see the comments in the comment section. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, when are we going to be able to play it?
You're going to be able to play this game later this year, and we are super excited about it, and very much look forward to people's reaction.
Les gars, la date de sortie, s'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît.
24, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We're excited about it. John and Jörg want to end by saying thank you so much for joining us all the way from Sweden, and we cannot wait to play the game.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Malik. It's been fun.
Of course, of course. Okay, and with that, we have wrapped up our week of Xbox Showcase special episodes from Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to Avowed, Metal Gear Solid Delta, and so much more. If you missed any of them, you know where to go, youtube.com/Xbox, or search for the official Xbox podcast on Spotify. And next week, we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming, so we'll see you Thursday at noon Pacific. See ya.
Voilà donc ce qui a été partagé par MachineGames. Pas énormément plus d'informations, par contre plus des backstage et des coulisses. Je précise que j'avais rien vu, hein. Donc vraiment j'ai découvert en même temps que vous. Excusez-moi, je me suis coupé la tête. J'ai découvert en même temps que vous le bail. Il faut une date de sortie, hein, les gars. Il faut une date de sortie. Là, il nous faut une date de sortie parce que 2024 c'est cool, mais là les gars on est à la moitié de l'année. Donc il va peut-être falloir se positionner très sérieusement. D'autant que Avowed apparemment c'est pour le 15 novembre. C'est pas des insiders qui le disent, c'est Obsidian eux-mêmes qui l'ont mis sur leur site avant de le supprimer. Donc on sait pas quand est-ce qu'il sortira. Moi, je vois plus une date de sortie pour septembre-octobre, à titre personnel. Mais c'est vrai que pour l'instant, ils sont quand même extrêmement silencieux sur le sujet. Moi, j'ai pas grand-chose à dire de plus, si ce n'est que par contre, pour la vue à la première personne, j'entends totalement l'argument de c'est parce qu'on a envie d'être Indiana Jones, etc. Donc je comprends la façon de penser des développeurs. Cet argument, il est recevable, oui et non. Oui, dans le sens où, effectivement, on est plus impliqué. Non, dans le sens où, moi, j'ai joué à tous les Uncharted, je me suis vachement identifié, j'ai vachement senti que j'étais la Drake dans tous les jeux. Pourtant, on est en vue TPS. Par contre, c'est vrai qu'ils ont bien fait de faire ce choix. Pourquoi ? Parce qu'en fait, ça les différencie de tous les autres jeux vidéo de ce style-là. Un jeu d'aventure, de chasse au trésor, comme ça, à la première personne. Alors, de tête, vous allez peut-être me dire des trucs obvious, mais là, j'en vois pas comme ça. Tous les jeux d'aventure, Tomb Raider, de Uncharted, etc., tout ça, c'est des jeux en vue TPS, donc c'est vrai que ça change un peu de d'habitude. Donc voilà un peu ce qu'il fallait en retenir. Et j'ai un dernier truc pour vous, mais je vais vous quitter là-dessus. Il y a la bande-annonce en français, hein, qui a été partagée. Donc si jamais vous voulez, on va la poster sur la chaîne très peu de temps après. Donc faites-vous bien plaisir. Merci beaucoup d'avoir suivi cette petite vidéo du côté d'Xbox Game Showcase Deep Dive. Ils n'ont pas fait de Game Showcase Extended cette année, c'était l'occasion pour eux de partager quelques vidéos. Dès qu'on aura d'autres éléments sur Indiana Jones, Avowed et d'autres jeux, on vous tiendra au courant sur la chaîne avec grand plaisir. Et merci beaucoup d'avoir suivi cette longue vidéo. C'était Momo pour JVM. La bise, jouez bien, prenez soin de vous. Et j'ai extrêmement hâte de jouer à Indiana Jones et le Cercle Ancien en 2024. On sait pas encore quand, on espère qu'on saura vite. Ciao.